Hello there, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Botox Games, and today I wanted to talk about why Nintendo is so secretive when it comes to their developers and letting us know who's actually making their games, because it feels like more and more lately Nintendo will announce a game, be it a remake, a remaster, a new game entirely in the case of Mario and Luigi Brothership, and we just don't know who's making it until it actually releases, which a lot of people have issue with. I've seen a lot of this on Twitter because it is a little weird, right? You would think you would want to celebrate your creators and say like, hey, this new Mario and Luigi game is being made by this studio. It's really exciting that we're letting this new team take this project on, or hey, this new remake or remaster of Luigi's Mansion 2 HD is being done by this studio. They brought you these remasters. Here's why you should know this is a good one. So it kind of poses this weird question of like, well, you think they would want to kind of proudly say like, this is this studio, but I think there's more to it than that, and I wanted to talk about that today. So the reason people are really talking about it right now, and I guess to wind back a little bit, you know, last year there were two very notable games announced that we didn't know about, or I guess really three, because we still don't know who's making Luigi's Mansion HD. I guess we will know very soon, but last year we had Princess Peach Showtime announced, as well as Super Mario RPG, and we didn't know who was making either of those games until they were out. Princess Peach Showtime being made by Goodfeel was a huge surprise. I don't think really anybody was predicting that. I saw a lot of people saying it was maybe a lower budget project at Next Level Games, maybe it was being done internally, maybe it was a new team entirely, but no, it was done by Goodfeel, the developers of Yoshi's Woolly World, Epic Yarn, like all of that stuff, right? So that was a huge surprise. Super Mario RPG Remake was done by a team called Art Piazza that typically works very closely with Square Enix on the Dragon Quest franchise. I would say most notably they did the Dragon Quest VII kind of remake on 3DS, as well as helped with Dragon Quest 11 and 11S. But then, yeah, they got Mario RPG, and that was a big deal for them. But the reason people are really talking about it again right now is because there were a few games in that Nintendo Direct that Nintendo will not say who's making them. Now, we figured out one of them because of a weird press release from Forever Entertainment. They're doing Donkey Kong Country Returns HD. A lot of people thought, well, maybe Retro did this. They did Tropical Freeze on Switch. It would kind of make sense that they were the ones handling Country Returns HD, but that's not the case. Mario and Luigi Brothership, we have an idea of who's making it. We can kind of make some educated guesses, and I do think those guesses will end up being correct, but we still don't know that for sure. And then even with The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, yeah, we all know Grezzo's making that game because they did Link's Awakening, they did Triforce Heroes, but Nintendo hasn't said that. We do not know that for sure. So yeah, I just keep seeing all these posts on social media being like, well, why isn't Nintendo telling us who's making these games? They should be, you know, telling us. It's a weird thing to keep secret. No other company really does it like Nintendo's doing it right now, where they keep it a secret up until we see the credits in the game. We see and, you know, get the demo data mined or something with another code being done by Arc System Works that no one would have expected, right? So it is definitely a little weird. However, I completely understand it. It is a little unfortunate. I would say it's kind of fun for me to speculate. I do enjoy that speculation aspect. I can't imagine it's very fun for the developers, but at the same time, it's kind of a double-edged sword. With almost every game that they've released in the past year that they didn't announce the developer beforehand, the reaction has been very negative when people figure out who's making it. So I think Nintendo's strategy is more so just, hey, here's the game, look at it, make your own judgments based on what you're seeing, and then if it's really good, hey, that means you can give the developers your praises, your flowers when the games are released, and we, you know, tell you who's making it because you can see it in the credits. But until then, the internet is so quick to make judgments based on who's making a game, typically in a negative way. You know, it usually leans more negative. And like I said, for a lot of these recent games, it's been leaning more negative because of who's making them, when really I think Nintendo just wants us to wait and see, like, okay, let's see what these developers can do, and kind of a case of just, you know, show, don't tell, right? So let's go over these developers that we've kind of figured out are making these games. So the first one being Donkey Kong Country Returns HD. This one is confirmed. We do know this. Forever Entertainment, I believe, put out like a press release or something on some not English website. I'll put it up on screen. But they put a press release out saying like, yeah, we're doing Donkey Kong Country Returns HD, which is notable because back in 2021, I'd completely forgotten about this. Nintendo actually did give them a sizable amount of money to do more remakes and remasters. The key thing there being like multiple, right? Like Country Returns HD is the first one being announced, but I think it's a safe assumption that they will likely end up doing more. But when people found this out, they were immediately like, oh, Forever Entertainment, that's why this looks so bad. Oh, it's not going to be a good remaster, that kind of stuff. And, you know, if you look at the trailer for Crunchy Returns HD and you don't feel impressed by it, that's certainly valid. Like, I'm not going to say, oh, you need to hide your feelings on this game. I've seen a lot of people kind of comparing it to the Wii version, how the lighting's different, how some of the animations are a little dumbed down. And if you have an issue with that, that's completely fine. But when you find out it's Forever Entertainment and then you start freaking out like, oh, well, they did that pretty bad House of the Dead remake and Panzer Dragoon remake, which wasn't very good, it makes sense that this is a lousy port, right? So it's just, it just adds an inherent layer of negativity when there doesn't need to be that layer of negativity right now. The game still has almost a year until it comes out, or I guess half a year in this case. It comes out in January. Let them cook. Now that they have the feedback from the fans, right, maybe they'll be able to address those issues, but a lot of people are jumping on it because it's Forever Entertainment. Another game that's getting way more negative press because of who is allegedly making it is Mario and Luigi Brothership. Now, if you aren't familiar with Mario and Luigi, that series was made by a developer named Alpha Dream, and they actually went bankrupt back, I believe, in 2019-2020, after doing the Bowser's Inside Story remake on 3DS that completely bombed. A lot of their staff went to other very prominent Japanese developers, and it has been kind of sleuthed out that the developer making Brothership is very likely to be Ilka. Ilka is most notably known, in the Nintendo community anyway, as being the developers of Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. And when people figured this out, they were like, oh no, this is really bad news, because those are really bad remakes. I think most Pokemon fans would say those are honestly the worst Pokemon games that we've had. They were very rushed, very low budget. They just feel very low quality. So inherently, when people figured out like, oh, well, a bunch of Alpha Dream staff went to Ilka, it became such a negative thing for Mario and Luigi Brothership. It's become the talking point for that game, like, oh, Ilka's making it. When before we knew Ilka, or before we had an idea that Ilka was behind this game, everybody was super positive. There was questions of like, well, who's making it? But for the most part, everything was positive. And I would still say everything leans towards positive, but when they're talking about who's making it, it's like, well, Ilka, they made that really bad Pokemon remake, right? Surely they're not going to make a great Mario and Luigi game. But when you actually look at Ilka's track record, they have a pretty solid track record outside of that one Pokemon remake that, frankly, I would attribute more to the Pokemon Company and them trying to rush it out in such a quick time frame. I feel like that's more of a Pokemon Company issue than an Ilka issue. As someone who does hate Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, I really, truly do not like those games. I don't necessarily think Ilka's to blame there. So for those unaware, Ilka was founded in 2010. They did a lot of support on stuff like Yakuza 0, Dragon Quest XI, Nier Automata, but more recently, they've been really making their own original anime games for Bandai Namco, the first of which being One Piece Odyssey, which was reviewed, you know, not amazingly well, but like it was a very high quality game, clearly higher quality than Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. And then this year they just released Sandland, which was really cool to see get a game, by the way, kind of off topic, but really cool to see that get a game. Kind of this open world Mad Max style adventure game. Really enjoyed that. They make good games. Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl is the exception to what they've done, certainly not the rule. So when I hear that Ilka is behind Mario and Luigi Brothership, yeah, I understand that, like, immediate, like, oh no, I don't want the people that made Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl making the revival of Mario and Luigi. But when you actually look at what that team has done, and when you look at the trailer, which I think kind of speaks for itself for Mario and Luigi Brothership, I feel like there doesn't need to be that negativity. But because people have figured it out, basically, that they're making it, is what I'm trying to say here, like, there's just become so much more negativity, which is why I think Nintendo is keeping it close to their chests. They're letting the games speak for themselves. And then, yeah, they're not going to not credit the creators. Obviously, that stuff still happens when the game comes out. But pre-release, it just adds a level of negativity. I mean, going back to Princess Peach Showtime, when people figured out that it was good feel, I believe, from the demo for that game, I remember seeing forum posts and stuff being like, oh, well, that's why it looks bad. And you wonder why Nintendo doesn't want to tell you who's making their games? It's because of that. It's because of the internet's reaction to this stuff. And then the other notable game we still don't know who's making is Luigi's Mansion 2 HD. We'll know that very soon. It comes out in a couple days of when I'm posting this. I have a feeling, honestly, you know, for the longest time, I was under the assumption Grezzo was doing it, and I would still say that's possible that maybe they did 2 HD alongside Echoes of Wisdom. Maybe Next Level did it internally themselves after Battle League came out, you know, just a small kind of in-between project before they inevitably start making Luigi's Mansion 4 for the Switch 2. I don't think it's that impossible that Forever Entertainment is also behind that, right? We're seeing them bring a Wii game, but also kind of a 3DS game to the Switch with Country Returns HD. I don't know if Nintendo really funded them to do several remakes and remasters. Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, it looks kind of more basic compared to, I don't know, something like Skyward Sword HD or even Thousand Year Door, which we know Intelligent Systems did. Luigi's Mansion 2 HD does feel a little bit more basic in a comparison to those kinds of remasters, so I think it could be Forever Entertainment. And I'm excited to try that game out. I don't love Luigi's Mansion 2 or anything. It's my least favorite of the three, but I'm curious to see what they did with that version. I'm curious to see how it reviews, but I really do think that's it. I think it is just the negativity surrounding certain developers and just not wanting to have that negative press out there. And even for those developers, I'm sure, like, yeah, Western internet, very different from, if you're in Japan or something. I doubt that Japanese Twitter users would be the same, gut negative reactions. But, like, let's say an ILCA staff member was reading Twitter the day Mario and Luigi Brothership got announced, right? They're going to see all this negative stuff being like, oh, these people can't make a Mario and Luigi game because they made this bad Pokemon remake. And that's going to be a ding on morale, right? Like, that's not a good thing to see. That's not good for the developers to see all this negativity just because of one thing they did or maybe one or two things they did in the past, when the reality is the trailer looks good and their track record isn't that bad. It's just that one thing that's really kind of, hindered the reputation. So that's why I think Nintendo's being secretive. It's because of how quick people are to negatively react to information, specifically in regards to, like, who's making a game. So I don't know. I keep seeing people bring it up on Twitter. I wanted to make a video on it because I do find it interesting, and it is something kind of new, I feel like. I don't remember them doing this necessarily in the past. Maybe it was because we were getting less remakes and remasters in the past, so usually, like, if a Nintendo game's announced, it's like, well, we know what studios do what franchises, but now that we're getting all of these random remakes, it gets a little bit more weird of, like, well, who are they actually doling this out to? They just acquired Shiver Entertainment, I believe, a month or two ago. That's that Miami-based studio, I believe, right? And they're a porting studio. They did Mortal Kombat and Hogwarts Legacy on Switch. I think it's safe to assume they will likely end up doing more remakes and remasters for Nintendo. Will that be a negative thing, right? Whenever Shiver Entertainment has their first game announced, will people just be like, oh, well, they're the ones that did Mortal Kombat and Hogwarts Legacy on Switch. Those games look doggy. This is going to be a bad remake. Like, they're probably going to keep that secret because of people online freaking out over what really amounts to nothing. Just chill out, guys, basically. Let the games speak for themselves. If it comes out, it reviews poorly, then so be it. You're right. Then maybe ILCA shouldn't have done Mario and Luigi Brothership. But from what we're seeing right now in that specific instance, it looks pretty good. I'm excited to see more of it, and, I'm going to wait and see how reviews are for that game. So I think we all just need to take a step back and chill out a little bit about all of this developer stuff. It's not like the developers aren't getting credited. They will have their names in the credits. We will know who made all of these games when they actually do release. And I imagine for a lot of these studios, it's actually maybe a good thing to not have their name out there immediately, just to kind of not have to see that negative reaction. So let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. I would love to get a conversation going. Of course, subscribe here for more Nintendo Switch news, reviews, discussions, all of that stuff. Follow me on Twitter at BoTalksGames. And until next time, folks, peace.